Hey guys, welcome back to the Boneyard. Today we're talking about Fear Street Part 2, 1978, the second film in a trilogy event on Netflix. So let's get into the story details, as well as dig deeper into the curse cast on Shadyside by Sarah Fear, and the secrets buried all over Camp Nightwing. Part 2 picks up exactly where Part 1 left off. We open in C. Berman's house as she listens to a newscast describing the massacres during Part 1. And right away, we see the note left by Sheriff Good. It's happening again. C. Berman's house is locked up tight. We see dozens of locks and even more alarm clocks placed around the house.
I love what she's done with the place.
We see her forget to lock one of the windows, and later that night, after a frenzied knock at the door, Dina and Josh sneak inside. The two confront the paranoid woman about what happened at Camp Nightwing and how she survived, showing her the tied-up, possessed Sam and begging for her help. Berman reluctantly agrees to try and help, and Dina and Josh tie up Sam in the bathroom. As Sam roars in the background, Miss Berman invites the two to take a seat.
I feel a flashback coming on.
She then opens a journal.
Oh God, here it comes.
And removes a photo of her and her sister as kids.
I knew it.
In front of the Camp Nightwing sign in 1978. We see young Ziggy Berman falling victim to what I would call extreme bullying, before young Nick Good, the sheriff from Part 1, who's a counselor at the camp, puts a stop to it. We then see the beautiful summer camp in all of its 70s era glory, as tons of young Shadysiders and Sunnyvalers enjoy different activities. In an outhouse, Ziggy's older sister Cindy and her boyfriend Tommy, who are also counselors, try to scrub the stubborn reddish moss off the stalls. And as they talk, a fly lands right on Tommy.
You know what that means. He's a killer.
We're then introduced to Alice and Arnie, both counselors, with Alice being a childhood friend to Cindy, but now hates her and constantly calls her a snitch. Ziggy is sent to the infirmary to have Nurse Lane treat her little bully burn, and after finding the cottage empty, investigates and finds a journal showing the witch's mark and a clipping from the newspaper detailing the Ruby Lane killings. And as Nurse Lane treats Ziggy for the burn, she reveals that Ruby Lane was her daughter and makes it clear she's never believed that Ruby just snapped, as is claimed about many of the Shadyside killers. As she wraps Ziggy's arm, she goes into a spiral about how sometimes killing is okay if it's justified.
Okay.
Yet again, we have a rift between two people that used to be close, caused by one feeling the need to leave Shadyside forever. It seems that Cindy is planning on leaving Shadyside for college, leaving Ziggy alone with Mom to pick up the pieces after a messy divorce. As Cindy and Tommy clean the mess hall,
God, being a counselor here sucks.
Nurse Lane enters looking shaken and brandishing a knife, immediately apologizing to Tommy and assuring him she can't save him and that she saw his name on the wall and that one way or another he's going to die tonight. She then lunges at him with the knife, but after a brief struggle, she's knocked out. But as we know, after seeing the first movie, she's most likely trying to kill him because she knows he has likely already been touched by the curse, and killing him now might save the lives of the campers. Although I'm not exactly sure that's how that works. After the camp watches Nurse Lane being arrested and carted away by the police, they prepare for the color war.
I know. It sounds bad, but it's not that kind of color war.
It's basically just a series of games between the Shadysiders and the Sunnyvalers, beginning with a nighttime game of Capture the Flag. After seeing that Tommy is still very affected by the attack, Cindy insists that they investigate the infirmary to see what may have caused Mary to attack them. They too discover the journal just before getting jump scared by Alice and Arnie. The group looks deeper into the journal and finds a map of the camp relabeled Union 1666, Union being the name of the original settlement. After seeing markings on the map that seem to indicate the location of Sarah Fear's house, the four leave to investigate. Deep in the woods outside Camp Nightwing, they stumble upon a series of holes dug into the ground and assume that Mary must have been looking for the witch's severed hand. They find Sarah Fear's house, and inside, Cindy discovers an entrance to her altar room. She hears something whispering her name from behind a bookcase and discovers yet another chamber leading deeper into the caves. Alice then shows her the most unsettling discovery yet. Tommy's name carved into the stone right under all the other Shadyside killers. Freaked out, the two rush to leave, but are stopped in their tracks when they see Tommy absolutely wreck Arnie with an axe, now fully possessed.
But still a burlap sack short of the iconic Nightwing killer outfit.
Alice and Cindy then have no choice but to retreat into the witch's tunnels, saved only by a collapse, trapping them, but keeping them from being killed by Tommy. Back at the camp, with Nick's help, Ziggy lures Sheila, the bully from earlier, into the outhouse before dumping a bucket full of cockroaches and tarantulas all over her before locking her in.
Dude, that little psycho deserved it.
After discovering that the witch's mark can also be used as a map to navigate the caves, Cindy and Alice try desperately to find an exit to warn the rest of the campers. But they're too late, as after being called a nerd several times, a young camper, Jeremy, is ruthlessly attacked by Tommy. Nick and Ziggy's romance starts to blossom, but they are rudely interrupted by the screams of the campers, discovering Jeremy's pieces. Now, after Tommy has been continuing the witch's dark work, wreaking havoc at the camp, Nick tells his brother to gather as many of the campers as he can in the mess hall, and in 15 minutes, ring the bell to signal that he's taking all the survivors to safety on the bus. Back in the caves, Alice and Cindy discover a giant, disgusting, beating heart thumping away on the cave floor, gestating as thousands of flies swirl about. And of course, Alice just has to touch it. Slammed by a psychic vision and seeing the victims of the various killers, she runs off and snaps her ankle. Cindy snaps the bone back into place and patches the wound as the two patch up their broken friendship.
Aw, I'm sure they're both gonna make it out of this alive and go on to be best friends for the rest of their long lives.
They continue deeper into the caves and realize they are directly under the camp's outhouse. Ziggy goes back to the outhouse to free the bully Sheila, resulting in a scuffle that ends in Ziggy knocking her out cold. Counselor Gary, reprising his role as awkward friend from Halloween, happens upon the two, and they hear muffled cries for help from the depths below. They look inside the toilet to see Cindy and Alice calling for help and lower the bucket and rope down to pull them out. But no good deed goes unpunished as Tommy shows up and beheads Gary, sending his torso falling right through the stall, and he lands right on top of Alice's already broken ankle. Ziggy escapes back into the night, and the Nightwing killer follows, leaving Alice and Cindy stranded in the caves once again. Ziggy retreats to the science cabin, where Nick finds her and promises to help her find safety, just as Tommy barges in, sinking his axe into Nick's leg as Ziggy runs for her life, only to see the bus leaving them behind. Bye, see you next year, hopefully. Using clues from the journal, Cindy and Alice determine that they can find an exit into the mess hall. But Alice stays behind because her leg is like super broken, and she uses this quiet moment to dig around in the cave, conveniently finding the witch's severed hand. Yuck. Cindy makes it to a bolted down grate leading into the mess hall, just in time to hear Tommy pursuing her sister. But Ziggy cleverly gets the drop on him, seizing the opportunity to bury a knife deep into his heart, and then trying to suffocate him with a burlap sack, pulling it tightly over his facial features. He bucks her off, and we see that Ziggy's attack is actually the origin of the killer's iconic look, and we see the Nightwing killer officially for the first time. Just as Nightwing is about to do his thing with Ziggy, he's interrupted by a knife, interrupting his shoulder blades, and Cindy is forced to kill her boyfriend in order to save her sister. The two share a touching moment and put the past behind them, both promising to be better sisters, and Alice returns from the witch's caves, revealing the hand and explaining to the Berman sisters that they need to reunite the hand with the witch's body, buried at the hanging tree in order to break the curse. It's at this moment, Ziggy decides to drip blood from her nose right on the hand, immediately igniting the heart in the caves, and we see some disgusting, putrid shape taking form from the black goo. The trio prepares to go into the woods, and after a heart-wrenching speech from Alice, Nightwing rises from the dead to kill the moment, and Alice, before being killed by Cindy again, her beheading him this time. The sisters see Ruby Lane rising from the cave and sprint towards the hanging tree. As they begin to dig in search of the body, we see the Milkman, Billy Barker, and Ruby Lane closing in on them. They hit pay dirt, but unfortunately, it's not the body. It's a rock with the inscription, "The Witch Forever Lives," etched into it. Well, they're screwed. Cindy sacrifices herself, valiantly crossing tools with Nightwing, and tries to give Ziggy a fighting chance. But Ziggy is immediately caught by the Milkman, and the two meet their end together. The killers disappear, once more fulfilling their curse, and Nick breaks the tree line. He rushes to Ziggy's side and resuscitates her. As she's loaded into an ambulance, it's revealed that her birth name is Christine, aka C. Berman, and she tells Nick that it was the witch, as we fade back into her, speaking in the 90s to Josh and Dina. Her telling them Nick couldn't really become sheriff if he was telling ghost stories. Josh and Dina inform her that they found the real site where Sarah Fier was buried, and we find out the hanging tree is inside the Shadyside Mall, as we see Dina and Josh digging the hand up. They drive back to the burial site, and Dina's nose starts bleeding immediately. She rushes to bury the bones, and just as she starts to talk a little smack, she has the most intense psychic flash. Her seeming to actually flash all the way back to 1666, seeing through Sarah's eyes as we get our sneak peek at the next entry. And wow, 1666 looks so good, featuring the cast from both parts 1 and 2. I can't wait to see this one.
Well, that's it for Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Comment down below and let us know if you liked Part 1 or Part 2 better. Personally, I think I'll like Part 3 the best. 1666 looks awesome.
Like this video and subscribe, as we're new to YouTube and it helps us out so much. As always, thanks for joining us in the Boneyard. We'll see you next time.